Hello, everyone. This is Dave-Gould, and I'm here in Fairhope, Alabama. It's a nice sunny day. Sun's on my face. And I've been thinking about my past, and particularly about a time in my life in 1989 when I was 20 years old and thinking out of the box and coming up with crazy ideas. Back in 1989, there was no World Wide Web. Cell phones were big, huge things you'd hold like this up to your head. Pagers this was before the pager craze, so basically doctors in ER rooms had pagers. We did connect to the internet. We used file transfer protocol calls and the Usenet for various kinds of bulletin board type things, alt dot synthesizer, whatever dot. So it was all before the web, and there's a lot of crazy things going on. Bandwidth was really, really narrow. If you could connect to a large company with a T1, you were doing awesome. And so at 20 years old, I was a person that thought out of the box. I was always constantly trying to expand variables and maximize potentials and think of things in ways that people don't think of things. And I was married at the time, and in Seattle, I had a little apartment, and I just wanted to share this a little bit with you. I'll put this up here. There we go, and boom. So let's see. This is just too big. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. Here, I'm still on there. Okay. So we're going to talk about pursuing passions and how sometimes you can have these great ideas. The world tells you no, that you can't do it, that you're crazy, that it never can be done, or it's just not ready, and how really it's our obligation to ourselves and our own personal growth and development of the people we are to pursue those passions without worrying about whether the world says no. So in 89, I lived in this little apartment right here in Seattle, Washington. It was 3016 First Avenue. Incredible little apartment with my wife. I worked for a photographer, a professional portrait and wedding photographer who had large accounts with Nordstrom's and the news agencies, the news television stations, Ken Schramm and Steve Poole, and there was a bunch of them. I worked in the black and white dark room at the time, processing prints and doing those types of things. As well, I was in my own band. I was in a band called Melting Fish with Mike Slater and Glenn Slater. It was kind of a synthesizer duo, a bunch of keyboards and a guitar synths and things like that. So I was really around a lot of creative things and a lot of creative juices and the opportunity to think about life in a little different. In Seattle in 1989, it was about ready to explode. Nirvana, Soundgarden, Mudhoney, Pearl Jam, those bands hadn't made it big yet. I remember seeing Soundgarden at the Bite of Seattle in 1989 on a backstage, and there was about 25 people watching. And I thought to myself, this band is incredible. So that's kind of how it was. One of my biggest ambitions at that time was to purchase a brand new keyboard. I had always used keyboards and never really had a professional keyboard. So I begged my parents to co-sign a loan for me, and I bought a Korg M1. And it changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. And I started developing sounds for it. As you can see next to this picture, there's sound cards. I developed those products for synthesizer manufacturers. I went on to work with Korg, Roland, and Sonic, Kurzweil, to name a few. These are what the sound cards look like. Basically, you would manipulate the machine to produce different sounds, a trumpet or a certain kind of drum sound or string sound, better pianos. So we did that. This is the screen right here for a Korg M1. So it was pretty archaic, very dinosaur-like, and you just manipulated these data into it, and you could come up with new sounds. And it was through this kind of work that I coined the term expand all variables and maximize potentials. Now, in 1989, I was just starting out. I was green. I didn't have a lot of experience doing it. But as the years went, I learned to develop this. This was my quote, my meme. that says that, and I got it from these keyboard companies would give me a keyboard, and I would look at the keyboard and say, what has other people done? And what is the architecture of this particular machine? And how can I inflate those parameters and inflate the architecture in order to do things that nobody else has done. So my mantra at the time was always expand all variables and maximize the potentials. And so later in life, when I started to move into different things, I've been able to take that same meme, that same quote, and apply it towards my own personal development and other businesses as well. So that's where that came from. I thought maybe I'd share that little tidbit with you. The idea that I had at that time in Seattle was for a device that you would sit down in front of every morning with your coffee and be fed various streams of information, bringing it all into one situation. Now, there was nothing like this. There was no World Wide Web. And if you connected on the internet, you were pretty much hardcore into reading text and manipulating computers to get information. It was the military and colleges, of course, were really into it, and then just real big nerds, like myself. But I thought about this device, and I called it David, and I spent a couple of months just writing everything I can about it. It was a digital audio, video, intelligent device, and that's where the name came up. So, basically this device was a large screen TV, and you'd sit in this command chair, kind of like Spock or Shatner, and have a keyboard that came out over you, and you could, have a point and click kind of thing. And I never thought of the mouse. This is what I'm using today, which is awesome. There's no wires connected to it. That's a trackball mouse. But I had always envisioned at that time, or at least I wrote in my books, joystick that would move around and click and do that. The Macintosh had been out for about 5 years now. And then about 87, 89, when I was having these ideas, we were running Macintoshes like the Mac 2 CI, the Mac 2 FX. They were running less than 40 megahertz. And that's kind of crazy now when we consider that our processors are running in the 2 and 3 million megahertz. So that was my idea, and what happened was my world started telling me no. And it was impractical. There wasn't enough bandwidth. There wasn't enough processing power to serve it. But my idea behind it was for it to be a mail device, that you received all your mail this way, an electronic form of mail, that you would get news feeds off of the Associated Press or the United Press International, that you could go to it for a large database of music, that I envisioned digitizing all of the music that was out in albums, and putting it on a server somewhere. Kind of a crazy idea, isn't it? Same with video, that you could have little pictures of what the front of the video would look like, and you click on it. Hello, Netflix, are you out there? But anyway, and this is my whole idea. And then magazines as well, that you would have access to magazines. I didn't think anything about social networking was not on my mind. It never crossed my mind, those ideas. But basically everybody said no. And when I looked into it, I called a couple of my close friends who were computer scientists, and they said it just would cost too much money. It's a millionaire's machine. You couldn't market it. It's a luxury item. Only the very small percentage of people could actually afford something like this. There's no real profitable market to establish a business to do this. So I listened to them, and I tucked my notebook and put it away. And I always wonder what would happen if I didn't do that, if I pursued that, if I tried to make that a dream, because this was 5 years before Yahoo. This was 5 years before Alta Vista, 10 years, 15 years before Google. This is something. So I look at it as, if Dave, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you pursue that? If you would have had a 5-year jump on a lot of that kind of thing. And so, I believe that the David did come about, and it came about through very brilliant people that had the resources to be able to to deal with that. And now we all have our own David. It's all we carry it around in our pocket, really. Um, there it is, a device that gives you news and email and magazines and video and music. And so I don't know where I would be if I would have pursued that. I took the no. And, it's the crazy visionaries and crazy people that have crazy ideas that change the world, right? So I can't go back. It's kind of also in the reality of the situation. It's kind of like a Leonardo da Vinci in the sense when in his notebooks, he developed a helicopter. I mean, he sketched it out, right? But there was no way at that time to do it. And for me in 1989, there was no way for me to do a David device, but it's just awesome story about pursuing your goals and dreams and your crazy ideas. So the next time the world says no, your idea is too crazy, forget about it. Just do it anyway, because you'll change the world. If you ever want to get a hold of me, let me know. God bless y'all, and pursue those dreams.